Welcome to the Best Music Podcast with Dan Spencer, where we talk about music and the methods for making music with some of the top performers in the music industry. I'm your host, Dan. This week's featured guest is CerVon Campbell. CerVon is an independent South Carolina artist known for his soulful sound and deep, venting lyrics. He is a singer-rapper and also credited as a screenwriter, stand-up comic, songwriter, and actor. His music blends in a very interesting way mixtures of hip-hop, R&B, alternative indie, country folk rock, jazz, and EDM. His new single, Again, is out now wherever you get your music. You can find him at Facebook at CerVon Campbell Music. That's CerVonCampb, as in boy, ELL Music. Twitter at Hey I'm CerVon, HeyImCerVon. CerVon, thanks so much for coming on the show.
I am happy to be here. I really am.
So, CerVon, can you maybe just to get us started, just tell me about a piece of music or a song you heard recently that really stood out to you?
Um, lately, I am a really big Lord fan. Lord just put out a song, Solar, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm loving it. Anything that girl does is gonna be perfect to me.
Okay, and when you heard that song, how did it make you feel? Like, what was it, the music, the production that was pulling you in from like a musician perspective, or was it hitting you on a human level?
It hit me mainly because I listen to Melodrama, her last album, like on a daily basis, multiple times a day. So when I heard this, I had a kind of like a set tone that I was expecting.
Huh.
And this took me like way off. So it's kind of like when you think you're finna drink water, but it's a Sprite or the opposite. And that's really just how it hit me.
Man, one time, someone who I was staying with had denture solution in a in a cup, and when I'm telling you, I was thirsty at night, and I went in for a drink of water. And listen, I could have sworn that was my glass of water in the bathroom, but I took a big old swig of that denture
Hey,
solution, and all of a sudden, I'm on the line with poison control, being like, "Listen, do I need to take myself to the hospital?"
I wouldn't even have called. I would have went anyway.
Oh
I
boy.
would have went. I'm sorry.
Man.
uh,
Okay, so CerVon, let's talk a little bit about your music. So, one thing that really stood out listening through your discography is regardless of what's happening on top of the music, so regardless of what you're doing in terms of singing, in terms of rapping, in terms of having other people's voices come in, there's this real feeling of something new in the sense you're always taking different pieces of different genres and putting them together. Like, for example, like the use of a ukulele on Again and Simple. It's like, when was the last time someone heard ukulele on a hip hop track? But like, here we are. So can you talk a little bit about the mindset you bring in the studio when you're trying to get these different sounds?
it's more like it's always something like we have whatever beat that I have or I start with. I I work with a lot of different producers and stuff, and I'll have whatever they sent me, and then I'll start adding on top of it, and like it'll get to the point with like Simple where somebody gave us something similar, and I was like, I think I could use this, and we have all these instruments on hand, and it's like, well, let's add this. So then once we like go over that beat so much, then we kind of don't even need the beat. And with the ukulele, it was more like I was trying to keep my pace and I wanted to put in whatever I was listening to at the time. And for some weird reason, female pop music just gets me like amped. Like that's like my gym music for some reason. So like I was listening to Billie Eilish and I was like, who knows how to play a ukulele? So I had I had got on this app and I just like messaged a bunch of people like, can anybody play ukulele and be here within like an hour? And that's really what it is. We just whatever, because I have another song where we found a guy that was playing trumpet outside of the hotel we were at, and I was like, I've never used a trumpet before. Let's like get a trumpet. So
Was that
that's
the song you did, like the jazz song where you had like the
yes,
jazz guitar chords and then that like trumpet thing going on in the background?
yeah. I was like,
Wicked.
now we have a trumpet. I've never used a trumpet before in a song, so I just always want to play around with it, I guess.
So breaking down your process, for people who maybe don't know, a lot of times in hip hop you have what is called a beat, which in other genres of music we would call a track. And that's basically a producer's going to throw down some drums, some bass, maybe a couple elements that are going to sound hooky. And then they send that pre-made thing. And I understand you understand this. I'm explaining for our listeners.
Hmm.
And then they send this track to the artist, and then the artist would then, or excuse me, they send the beat to the artist or track, either way. And then the artist would then do their thing over the track. So what you're describing is a process of taking the track from a producer and then going in yourself, or like you said with other people, layering over that track to the point where sometimes you actually leave the track out and you just take what you've layered over, but then also just taking that opportunity to go in and just build on top of that track. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so when you're doing this process, um, you say you have instruments on hand, you're also getting on and calling people in for sessions. What's that feeling like? What are you following? Are you following just an instinct? Are you following ideas? What's giving you the movement to go in these directions?
Um, it's really a lot of frustration. Like the entire time I'm doing it, I'm really anxious and I'm really mad because I know that whatever instrumental, whatever beat we have, other people probably have it at the same time. Because I work with a lot of guys that they'll send out like an email chain and say, "Hey, these are all the beats we have." So I know somebody might have stole it or like used it and haven't said anything yet. So I I want to put my own spin on it. So like I hear like a lot of songs like Amina and J. Cole just came out with a song like well separately, but it has the same guitar loop, so it sounds like they're using the same beat. So to avoid that, I just kind of like the best example is with my song Still Growing Up. I got this beat and then he sent it to me and then somebody sent somebody sent me the link from YouTube and was like he also posted it on YouTube, which means no telling how many people have it. So I had already had a guitar in the background and I have this guy. He's really cool person. I can't even say we're friends at this point because I can't think of his name. But I met him over this app Fiverr, and he plays like I think it's like 15 different instruments. And I sent it to him, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think goes on it?" And he sent me like a synth, a harp, and all these different things, and we just added it and layered. And it's frustrating because I can say I think we need a trumpet, but I don't know like how to place one in there. Like I don't know, like, I can't make like that kind of music. I'm not that person. So I just have to find people that have an ear for it. And it's frustrating because you always want to keep going and then you don't know when to stop because you don't want it to sound like somebody else, but you also want to really step away from it at the same time.
So I've two things off of that. So number one, it seems like the sort of intention going in is really you're trying to differentiate yourself from the beats, and I'll explain to everyone in a minute why multiple people might get the same beat. But then it also seems like you're taking a sort of a producer role, essentially. You're saying, listen, this needs something else. Then you're bringing in other artists to contribute to the track. And you're just sort of like quarterbacking the whole track up to the point where you're then going to lay your stuff down. And then just for our listeners to explain, a lot of times what happens is producers who make beats, there's two ways of selling the beats. Well, three really. Number one is you give it away for free. Number two is you put it up on a site and you allow licensing deals. So that means an artist like CerVon might pay a producer, let's say, between $40 and $50 to use the beat in the song. And then the last way is to sell the beat. And that's where things get pretty darn expensive and can get into the thousands of dollars, where producers will make a beat and then to actually have that beat and only it would, like for an artist to have it only belong to them, it costs a couple $1,000s to get out. So CerVon, right now you're talking about sitting in that middle category where you're licensing the beats in. And because you're licensing the beats in, there's no guarantee that you're the only person to have that guitar loop or the only person to have that drum sound. So what you're doing is you're taking your entrepreneurial spirit and your creativity, layering on top of what you've gotten from those producers to create something new.
Yeah, I had the it was a really bittersweet moment. This guy messaged me. We found each other around the same time. Like I found him. I didn't say anything because I didn't know the depth of how he had it, but we had different songs on the same beat. And the guy sent it to both of us for free. Like, hey, you can have it, no problem, no licensing or anything. Just I made it and I just want to get my name out there.
Mm.
So we both made songs and I didn't know if he had a different deal with the guy. So I'm scared. So I'm just like quietly trying to make moves like, hey, maybe we should take the song down. And then he reached out to me and said, hey, we got to on the same song. Maybe we should do a song together. And it was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
works.
nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of doing it, but it's a very interesting sphere. And I think it's also an interesting conversation to have because as artists, generally, there just is not $2,000 to $3,000 sitting around to buy a track. Like that's even when you're on a major label and you're pulling in like you've got a record deal, like that kind of money per song, that's where the record company comes in and foots the bill. So what CerVon is describing is an experience that happens for a lot of independent musicians, and there's whole industries built around it. Um, CerVon, maybe could you talk a little bit about in your songs lyrically? A lot of times you talk about the lows. So, what are the lows to you?
Um there's always like I talk a lot and I try to do a lot with mental health and not necessarily just bring awareness because I'm not that person that want to advocate and like educate everybody. I want to more so be that person that if you're dealing with this problem, I know like in my music, when I listen to music, it's a sense of like you're not alone in it. Like when I say I listen to like certain artists, like Frank Ocean has a lot of songs that way where it's just like you feel accompanied by, and they might not necessarily even go into detail about how they're feeling, but it's like, well, somebody else feels that way, and then they talk about like what brings them out of it or like their experience through. Because a lot of people, you can vent in a circle, like everybody can talk about their problems, and you get this sense of unity. So that's what I try to do in my music. So when I talk about the lows, it's always like a point where you might like have a really bad panic attack or you lash out or you do anything and or a mood swing. And I look at my lows as like um I know like, and again where I talk about I'm in the lows, that was I get these manic episodes. They last like 15 minutes and I'll go personal about it. Sorry, but it's like I feel if I feel like trapped or I feel like I'm being stagnant in my career or just in life, I hit a low where it's just like I'm having panic attacks. Like, what do I do next? And I'm trying to figure out solutions to problems that really aren't even there, really. Because like being stagnant is not really like a big thing. I feel like at our age or just in life, because it's always something going on. So the lows, I mean, it's different for everybody. I have a friend, his lows are like way higher than mine because he said the like a really subtle brag that was so over my head where he was just like, my monthly listeners are below 100,000 right now. And I was just like, well, okay. And that was like, that like broke his heart. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever been out there before. But it's different lows for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. And when you're talking about these moments of feeling stagnant, does that come does that come from the analytics? Does that come from numbers and where you see, let's say, you're getting X number of monthly listeners and that number's not going up for a couple months in a row, but it's staying the same? Does that feel like stagnation to you?
It used to. Um, Spotify for artists and stuff like that, where you see how many people are listening and stuff like that, it used to bother me a lot. And I mean, it still does time to time. But now I notice that I'm actually growing a fan base, and I'll have like I have followers coming in and I'll be losing followers, or I have like a well-known person follow me and that'll like blow my mind. But after like months, it's like right now, I'm trying to fight to get permission to put out my next song because I'm at that point where I'm feeling stagnant. I just put out a song 2 weeks ago and it was doing really good and then it started to fade. Now it's going back up. But I'm always like, what's next? Like I just did something and now I feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting around. So it's like it's always something that could be done. So maybe it's running a promotion, doing a photo shoot, just being active, because you know, Instagram in that world, you have to be active.
Well, what you're describing is being an entrepreneur, which you are clearly. Um, I think my question around the numbers, did you find you came to a place where you were like, okay, the numbers are what they are. I can't change the numbers other than to work on my music, to work on my publicity. Like the numbers themselves won't change. It's only what I can do that will change the numbers. And like, have you found a sense of peace with those numbers? Or is it just like, I think the experience we could talk about is when you first release music and you start releasing music, it's a rush. You look at your song like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, like X number of people listen to it. I've got X number, and like all of a sudden these numbers start mattering to you in this really deep way. And it's almost like you start judging your artistic worth. And then if you're an artist, a lot of times your artistic worth is tied in with your sense of self worth. So then all of a sudden, how you feel about yourself can become dependent on how the numbers are doing. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how you've managed to make peace with the numbers, or if you have made peace with the numbers?
No, that's really it. I had a moment where I had deleted a lot of my music and like the main songs that I was getting plays from, I took
Why?
down.
Why?
Well, I do this thing. Okay, so in 2017, 18, that's when I put out like a bunch of like a really big body of music. And I noticed that I had some songs that was like really doing well and then songs that didn't do good at all. So I took the whole thing down, then I put it back up with just the ones that were good. And then the ones that I felt like could have been better, I reworked on them or changed stuff about it and then put them back out as singles and then add to the next project.
I see.
So I had a song Secret, and it was just so Secret, and I have a song Voices. Voices, I was like at a point where I was in high school and I was smoking and drinking and I was talking about it in the song, and I literally said in the song like now I'm just being really repetitive. So in Secret I was doing the same thing where I was like, okay, the second verse sounds exactly like the first verse, and I don't want to be that person like, oh, I'm doing drugs and that's cool. I'm not trying to romanticize it or make it seem like something you should do. So this girl that I followed, Vita Kari, she's crazy talented, and I was like, hey, let's do a song together. We had been talking about it, so I sent her Secret, and then I put it back out as a single. And that process of me taking it down, it was a good song. I just didn't personally like it, so my streams went down a good bit. But once I put it back up, like the numbers change and stuff like that. So like when I have those like moments and take stuff down, it's always a hit at first, but I feel like it'd be worth it in the end. So with that, and you looking at the Spotify for artists, and it says like 0 people are listening right now, it hits and it really hurts. But then it's moments where like the first day I put out, I've never had this happen. Like this is like my biggest thing right now. I had like 200 and some people listening at one time. That number didn't stay that number, but like at one time, because I did everything, I'm gonna say right. I had did it from a strategic level, like of thinking. And so like my first release day, Spotify added me to so many playlists and really helped me out. So I had like 273 people listening at one time. And then it just like I got this rush, and then when the numbers went down, it's like it was really humbling. Like this many people took time out of their day to listen to me. So even if it's like you have like 5 people listening, that's still 5 individual people that you probably don't even know, who you just, like, was a part like, you were a part of their day. So that really humbled me to the point where I still check my numbers because it helps with my next release and my next thing that Imma do, because I'm looking at everything now strategically, but it's not like I'm not losing sleep. I'm not finna, like, see it and then be like, "Hey, followers, I need you to go listen to this right now." I'm not gonna, go too wild about it.
So is what brought you to that place of saying I'm okay that there's 5 people listening, that it's gratitude.
Yeah.
It's like this level-headed gratitude of like, wow, even if there's one person listening to me right now, even if I can touch one person, like that makes it worth it. So for you, if there's someone out there who is losing sleep off their numbers, what would you say to them?
I mean, it's you're doing something, like, everything makes a wave, so, like, you might be mad that 5 people listen to your song and you want 10 or 30, but at the end of the day, like, you never know, because like, that one person that listened to it could've went and told their friend, and that was the second person to listen to it. It's always more to it, so it's still growth, and it's just it's just being grateful because all the little things add up. So at some point, you'll look at it and you'll have like, all these thousands of people looking, and you get this big head, and then you become somebody you don't want to be. And I've seen it. So when you see, and like, I feel like we all see those stars. Like, not to just, be mad or throw names, but I saw like Kodak Black throwing like a bunch of money off a boat into the water just like the flex. And I mean, that's cool if you got it, but like, some people really need that money. So, you might be mad with your 5 views. Somebody out there has no views and they're fighting to
Mm.
get one. So it's just, being grateful, because it's always somebody that's gonna have more views. It's always somebody that's gonna have less views. Just, you know, grow. I
It's
don't know. I
super
talk too
important
much.
not to compare yourself to other people too, because if you were comparing yourself to that artist you just mentioned who's throwing money off a boat as a flex, and again, is this a hip hop artist?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the hip hop game, like since hip hop's been around, like
Yeah.
there's always been things about showing flexes. Like I remember when I was in high school and like Lil Wayne got $1 million for his birthday in a briefcase and then like wrote a song about it. It's like we were talking about it because it was a crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Cash Money Millionaire tougher than I'm not gonna rap because I'm just gonna I'm gonna make an absolute fool of myself. But you understand where I'm going with this? Is
Yeah.
like these sort of it's essentially a publicity stunt, and they do it with money, and it makes waves. Um, but you can't compare yourself to that because if you're just starting out, or even if you got like a couple thousand monthly listeners on Spot or whatever platform you're on, it's like number one, maybe you don't have a manager. Number two, if you have a manager, he probably doesn't have $1 million to give you on your birthday. Number three, you're not Lil Wayne. So it's like the entire concept of saying, oh, well, I need to be like so and so. It's like, no, be yourself. Do you release your music your way in a way that's authentic for you, and you'll find your people. And maybe you're not going to find millions of people. Maybe you're not going to find a record deal. But like what is fulfilling for you in your heart is what's fulfilling for you in your heart, creating your music, creating your art, sharing your art, touching those 5 people, touching that one person? Or is this just about trying to make it rich? And if it is, listen, if anyone is listening to this podcast and is like, listen, I want to make it rich in the music business, the percentage chance of making that happen is like, especially if you have no contacts, is so little. And this is not to discourage anyone from getting into it. It's just to have a realistic conversation about it. It's like, my goodness, the people who are at the top and fight to stay at the top, like a lot of luck involved, a lot of knowing the right people, and obviously a lot of hard work too.
But it all goes into like with the music. So, um, I know a rapper. He said it in a lot of his interviews. He just raps because of the money. It pays good,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that's fine and all. But like, you can tell in the quality of their music. So it'll show like they're not rapping about nothing. The music doesn't have really no substance, and
Mm.
not that like 'cause some of that music really is fun for like parties and stuff. But like when you listen to music, I feel like everybody wants to be like carried away to a different place. So
Hmm.
like if you're just listening to somebody brag to you for like the duration of a song, then at the end of it, you don't really have a sense of relief or anything. You didn't really get through a whole lot. So like it's a lot of artists who you feel their pain and everything they go through, and it's because they actually have a passion for what they're doing.
I think what we could describe there is the difference between music made for art's sake versus music made for a commercial sake. So,
Yeah,
like you say, it's good to listen to at a party because it's fitting the bill of the product. It's made by a label, marketed. Everything is just so. So it sounds kind of similar to something that came before it, but just a little bit different to sound new. And that it's the music industry, the music business
yeah.
versus arts for art's sake. Speaking of songs with substance, can you talk about what you mean by my toxic trait is that I fall in love with toxic trait?
Um, I feel like a lot of my relationships, all of not saying in a bad way at all, because I'm in a relationship now and we have a really good understanding of each other's toxic traits. So like her when she's mad, she's like I feel like every small person has a really big amount of anger inside them. So okay, she's really small,
But
she's
when you're saying
short.
small, you mean like small in stature?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
short. So she's about 4'9", 5 feet. So she has a 6 foot tall anger monster inside
Huh.
her. So if we're arguing or talking like she's gonna blow up, and her being so small, I think it's so adorable. No matter how mad she gets, it's just like, oh. So I mean, like, and you'll look at that and say, hey, that's a toxic trait because she might be mad, she might be yelling, or like any of those things. So like, and I wrote that song like basically as a conversation with her, and it was just in that song, I think it's vibe. She's like, she'll get mad and throw fits because she needs reassurance. Like, because I'm the type to be like, if she says, "Hey, I love you," I'm like, cool. Like,
Oh no, CerVon, you can't do that, buddy.
but I
Oh
I do it just
no.
to make her
Seriously?
mad. I do it just to make her mad.
Oh.
'Cause, like, I don't know, but, like, it's just to make her mad to get a reaction, and that's my toxic trait. I think everything's funny, so when you put those 2 things together, it'll explode, but, like, we have a really good understanding of it, so it's
Mm.
like, there's a time and a place, basically.
Indeed. In defense of people who are small of stature, I'd just like to shout out to my girlfriend, who's the sweetest, smallest thing ever, and does not have a 6 foot tall anger thing. But I hear what you're saying, and there's a reason why they call it the Napoleon complex, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what she has.
Uh, so let's talk a little bit about your 2020 album, "The Ways I Feel in the Dark." How did you go about finding the feeling and the sounds for that album?
Um, that's when I was trying to, like, figure out where I wanted to stand in music, and I was trying to not have every song sound the exact same.
Mm.
So and I also wanted to incorporate everything that was inspiring me at the time. So I went into it with the lyrics, and that's how I go with everything. I have the lyrics first, and then I look for beats. So my process with that was I had to shun away everybody that I was around. Because I didn't want any influences other than like, like I'll listen to this song or this song, and how can I fuse everything together? So a lot of those songs I did what I did do now, but I did it by myself when I rented a bunch of instruments and I couldn't play none of them, but I would just like find a sound that worked and I would loop it and I would just play around with it, and I wanted to make something that I actually liked because even then, like I liked my writing, but I didn't really care for my music in
Mm.
total because that's when the sad boy vibe was coming up, and I didn't want to go too little peep, and I didn't want to rap too much because like everybody. was rapping, and I really wanted to stand away, and I didn't know how to do that. So that whole album, I locked myself away, and I say within a couple of months, I kind of had a draft of it, and then I, just kept adding more stuff to it. That album just took like years to make because every time I would finish a song, I would redo it, like add more to it or redo it completely. I just really wanted to have a brand of my sound, like not like in a pretentious way. I just wanted to have like a specific thing, like okay, this is a Savon type Campbell type of song, type of feel, and I don't feel like I all the way got it because at the end it was kind of like okay, we got to hurry up and post, but I got close. I'll say that I got close.
Can you talk a little bit about the song How About Now? That, the entire album musically really stood out to me from like a creative standpoint. It's clear the amount of work that went into it. But can you talk specifically about the song How About Now? Can you talk about the inspiration for that song?
How about now was it's still to this day my most my main song, like my
Huh.
most popular song, but it's like the main song that I do not like because I feel like
No way.
I feel like I sound so awful because I'm just like bragging the whole song. But my intent was like, I was in a relationship and I was like an awful person the whole relationship because I was dealing with so many other things. During the relationship, that's when music really was starting to kick off. I had like other music out, but I had it taken down. But like, so when How About Now came about, it was well, the story with it was I had all this stuff going on, music's working, and I'm trying to keep up with a girlfriend while I'm also trying to be out on tour. And it got to the point where I knew she wasn't happy. Everything I tried to do just wouldn't work. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we just need a break. So I and I've done this other times. I broke up with her and I was like, maybe it'll be for the best. But that wasn't my, excuse for leaving. But I figured give it a break, work really hard in music, and then come back and think. And I thought material things would like matter to her. So after like a year, that's when I recorded. I think is when the moon became a sunset. That whole album was like me talking to her basically, well EP, and it was I had went out and I was on tour and I was like doing like I was on a ton of shows. I had linked with a lot of like celebrities and I was thinking like not that I'm a big deal, but I have all this stuff now. I have more money than I had then. And I had all these material things where it was like, this is going to impress her. This is going to make her say, hey, I want to come back now. So then when I tried to talk to her, like it was just no substance there. It wasn't nothing there. So I put it into a song like, how about now? So like, would this work? Would this work?
Wow.
And overall in the song, it was like, nah, it didn't work.
Amazing. And I gotta tell you, man, I love that song.
I
Like,
appreciate it.
I do-
I appreciate it.
that whole album is like straight up Pink Floyd. Like, have you ever heard the band Pink Floyd?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a really big compliment. I appreciate
like
it.
it's got that sort of a vibe to it in terms of like the different layers of things happening all at the same time and just the different vibes. I really I dug it a lot in
You know
in a
what?
big
It's
way.
so great. I really appreciate that because literally, literally today I typed out a whole thing about to send it to my distributor saying, hey, I want to take down this album.
Dude, do not
I
take
was
that. What are you
I
doing?
I literally typed it out. I was about to
What are
have them
you
take it down.
doing?
Yeah. That and like a bunch of singles that I have, I was about to take it all down.
Dude, that album, anyway, whatever my opinion's worth,
No, I
that
really
album,
appreciate it.
dude, that album is artistic gold.
I really appreciate it.
Like seriously, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about performance and creativity. Um, so what's your threshold of sleep where you find your performance and creativity is impacted? So, like if you sleep 5 hours, are you good? If you sleep 6 hours, are you good? Where do you dip under and all of a sudden the next day you can't rhyme as well, you're not feeling quite as inspired?
It's different all the time because like Yesterday, like now, like up to now, I've been up for like a solid like 2 days. Like a
You've been up for
solid two
two
days.
days straight?
Yeah, like but I'll be up for like 2 or 3 days and I might have like a 2 hour nap in between, or I'll have a day where I'll sleep like 15 hours straight.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But like all in all, like I really should, but I don't just record music throughout the day. I don't like play with beats or anything. I write. I might write like what I think is a verse, or I'll write a hook, and I'll just have like 30 hooks and 30 verses or whatever, and I'll just kind of at some point when I'm ready to go to the studio, I'll start mixing it together where I'll have like 80 different notes in my phone, and then that'll
Right.
come together to be like 5 songs because a lot of it is just stuff like, oh, this line might go together, or I don't use this word ever. Let me incorporate this word somewhere. And once everything's fused, then I'll like start shopping around for beats or like trying to figure out what the sound should be.
So you don't find that sleep or lack of sleep is impacting your ability to make those rhymes? Like, it's not like for me, for example, if I stay up for 2 days, what I'm writing down is going to be incoherent and is like, we're going to need to trash it. But you're finding after 2 days, what you're writing down, you're still able to use it when you go into the studio?
Yeah, I think because I micro write, so like me writing a little bit here and a little bit there, I'm not like
Oh,
fully writing those songs. So like now being up for 2 days, I know I've wrote like at least 5 different like I don't know like paragraphs or verses or whatever, and then a couple like lines, but nothing like fully done, and I haven't put anything together.
now, do you find that when you're in a state of sleep deprivation, like once you get into day two, that you've been up with no sleep, do you find that the way you think of ideas changes because your mind starts working differently?
I think I'm a lot less creative because like now like I've been up 2 days think like working like marketing stuff, like thinking that way. So now I'm not thinking like beat wise or anything. So like I've had a couple people message me about like music related stuff, and I haven't gotten around to it because I'm not really in an art mindset right now. I guess like how you have, the logistics side of your brain and the art side of your brain. I guess the longer I'm awake, it starts to shift to the other side.
I see. So what happens is as you stay up over time, you become less effective in the art space, in the
Yeah.
creative space, and it's more just like you can get tasks done. Like you could like
Yeah.
if there's a marketing thing, you can like schedule a post to get done or whatever, but you're not really in a creative space. That's interesting. Have you ever
Yeah, like I
tried
have
using
ideas, but I haven't, like I
right?
have, like I have a lyric or so idea, but nah, not too deep.
Have you ever used mindfulness or meditation to impact creativity or productivity?
Productivity for sure. I got into yoga and I've been doing little forms of meditation, and I feel like it has helped me a lot. And I feel like it changed the narrative in a lot of my music.
Huh. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I have a song. So I'll go from a song I have a little more where I before yoga and before any like kind of like peaceful thinking, where it was like not that I was just mad at people, but it was me saying like, I've been helping and doing a lot for other people because I write for a lot of people and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I need a break from that. I need a break from people. I want to be by myself. And then going into like meditation and stuff like that, where I'm kind of like thinking more, like I'm not gonna say thinking more, thinking things through and trying to accept a lot of things. Then over the course, and I'll put out Still Growing Up and like Cedar Falls, where it's like I have a more hindsight view of all those problems now. So a little like I remember like writing a little more and like doing a little more. My mindset was really like try like because those few songs, the last few songs I put out was about a specific girl. So that's a little more started like I was mad and I was trying to make her into a bad guy in the relationship. So
Mm.
like meditating and like kind of calming my head and doing more really changed that, because I got a better view of everything of the situations,
Huh.
so it calmed my lyrics down, I guess.
That's really fascinating. Um, Especially because it's having an impact on you globally to the point where your perspective is changing, that your lyrics are changing. Do you exercise? And if so, how do you feel that exercise impacts creativity and performance?
Um, I set aside certain days for exercise, like other than yoga. Like I'll go running or so like that. Um, I'll do a lot of running or walking. Not a lot. I'm not big on like going to the gym, but I'll go run or so. And with that, it it's not. I'm not gonna be productive afterwards. I'm not gonna be like trying to go to the studio or do anything afterwards.
Okay, so after you exercise, you don't feel a clarity, rather you feel it's time to relax after you exercise.
Yeah, like if on a day that I know like okay, today's a workout day, I'm going to do this. After that, it's more like let's go run a movie. Let's go to the
Huh.
movies.
Okay.
Let's do something like that. Let's go out to eat. I'm
So
not
it
trying
like
to overdo myself.
it creates a space for recharging and it allows you to
Yeah,
step away from the art and step away from the business and just be a human and sort of have that
yeah,
recharge time. Yeah?
yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, cool. How do people in your life support your ability to make music and be creative?
Um, all that's really new. I just started having more support like within the last year.
And what does that support look
Um,
like?
it's well, just maybe people asking questions, people actually listening when I talk about it,
Mm.
or like maybe sharing. Like sharing, I feel like it's the simplest thing you can do, but I just started having that. So people in my life just starting to accept it and like be more involved, and I feel like it adds a sense of like determination. It makes me feel like, okay, well, you know what? If other people are paying me attention, that I know that I can see up close. Because when you see support up close, then I feel like it's different than somebody online from 1,000 miles away. So it changes my work ethic a lot.
Hmm.
Like it makes me want to do more.
Do you find yourself as a musician, a human who makes music, or something else?
Um,
An umbrella term, we could
no,
include MC under musician. It's a person who's being creative and creating music, essentially.
no, music is really not even like my first thing. Because I started off, I was originally doing stand up first, and then I moved into music. So I don't look at myself. I don't know. I never thought about it. Never really looked at myself as like I am a art person. This is who I am.
Uh,
This defines me. I don't think I've ever thought that way.
Now, this is a question for you. Let's talk a little bit about practice because,
Okay.
flow, while for a lot of people who have like natural rhythm abilities, flow is going to come easier than not. I think everyone has got to practice their flow a little bit. So, are you at a place where you practice flow, or was that something that happened in the past and now you're more just like doing?
Um, I have to practice because I'm really bad about going off beat. It's in
Uh,
some of my songs is very apparent, but like um it's a lot of songs that I have where I didn't get the instrumental to it till the day before I went to the studio or that day. So before I'm like on the way or before I get there or whatever, I'm running through it trying to see like how it'll flow well, like what parts should sound like this and stuff like that, where a bridge should go and all that kind of thinking. So I have to
and
run through it a bunch of times before I record it.
do you ever do any practice before you get it? Like, do you ever practice with a metronome or do you ever like rap along with someone else's verses to try and get a feeling of their flow and incorporate that into your style?
Yeah, I don't know if it's bad to say, but like it's a song "Purple Like the Summer Rain" by I don't know how to say her name, Mo, but I really like her cadence, and I'm really trying to get close to there,
Huh.
and I've admitted this before, and I've reached out to them and like tried to set up to get like the sampling and everything for it, but I have a song "Still Growing Up," and I tried my best to get the "Still Growing Up" part to sound like the "Still Turning Out" on the song by AJR, and because I really wanted the similarities there, which I don't do often. Like I'm not, stealing people's music, but I really, it's sometimes I just like really am inspired by stuff that people do, and I have to practice it and try to really get close to mimic it.
Yeah, you may not know this, and please stop me if you do. And well, actually, I'll explain this for our listeners. A great exercise that a lot of instrumentalists and singers do is to learn other people's songs note for note, like you say, with the exact cadence. So, like, I could learn a Miles Davis solo, the jazz trumpet player, on guitar,
Hmm.
or I could learn it on piano, or I could scat it, I could sing it back, and you learn so much by copying other people. And there's nothing wrong doing that. If you get inspired by something, you do it. Like, let's
I
just
didn't
think
know that
about
at all.
impressionist painters. Like, someone was the first one to make an impressionist painting, and then all of a sudden everyone is painting like impressionist painters, right? There's nothing wrong with it. We can learn so much by emulating other people. So when you practice, how many days a week do you practice? Do you have a practice schedule, or is it just like when you feel you need to practice, you're practicing?
Well, I sing along to songs all the time, and I get really into it. But as far as like going out of the way like to practice it, I don't
Mm.
really. I throughout my week, if I'm not planning on like recording or like like really diving into it, like I have an artist, well, a lot of people that I like write for. So like if I know it's a week where so and so is going to the studio, then in my mind it's like, okay, I need to brush up on more of their music, so I know my writing pattern can add up to them and listen to their kind of stuff, so I can get like, so I can know who like what pitches to write for and stuff like that. And I'll like practice that. But if I'm not doing that, then I try to stay far away from music, like creativity as I can. Like I'll try to push it away, but unless like I'll practice it like if I know something's coming up that I need to
Huh.
have it for. Cause like I'm bad with like I don't remember the words to the majority of my songs. So like if I
There are a
know I'm
lot
finna
of
go
words.
perform, yeah. So if I know I'm finna go perform, it's like okay, I have to be weird and make a CerVon playlist, and we're gonna listen to me.
Man, everyone does that. If it's any consolation, everyone does that. Dave Mustaine of Megadeth, the metal band, hard rock.
Hmm.
Um, like they'll go. Oh, also Doug Pinnick of King's X talks about this too. Shout out to Doug, who's just a crazy writer and amazing bassist and great vocalist. They will do their studio recordings and they don't tour till like 4 or 5 months later. So what happens is they record everything in the studio, and then 3 months later they got to go back and listen to all the tracks
Yeah.
that they recorded and remember how to play it. And then it gets worse because for Dave and Doug, they've got to play while they sing. And when they're in the studio, they did it separately. They played and then they sang. And then what they have to do when they're doing live is they have to play and sing at the same time. So they have to put the two pieces together and try and make it happen, which is, of course, a bajillion times harder.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
glad I don't have to do that much. That's crazy.
it's work for sure. Um, when you practice the most, what's your maximum numbers of hours you're practicing for? So if you sit down, you say you're going to try and get the cadence of another artist. How many hours are you going to try and get that cadence for?
Not even an hour, maybe 30 minutes or so.
Uh,
I I'm like I know it sounds bad with like music being my whole thing, but well, not I'm not gonna say whole thing, but music being like my career at the moment because like I haven't been able to do stand up or anything else. But like I just when it turns into work, I can't stay focused.
huh.
I drift out of it. So like if I'm listening, if I'm going to perform and I have to like practice my words and how it goes, then after a while, it just my attention span is gone. I don't want to hear myself no more. I don't like the song. So like, because a lot of the songs that I perform are the songs that I actually don't want to listen to that I'm not a fan of. So it gets old. So I give it like it can be like I might get one song in, I might get like three or four songs in, and it just fades. And I'm like, okay, I want to listen to somebody else. I want to watch a movie or something like that. Yeah.
So if money was not an issue, would
Hmm.
you still practice?
Um. Yeah, but I practice more just like if I know something's coming up because,
Okay,
like I
but hang
said, it's
on,
still
hang
like
on. Just to set the scene here, you've got $2 billion in a bank account,
okay,
which means you don't have to perform.
okay,
Are you still going to practice?
probably not, probably
Okay,
not.
cool. There's no right answer, but there's no right answer to these questions.
I feel
Um,
bad, but yeah, no,
no,
yeah.
that's cool. So do you take any steps to stay creative?
Um, I listen. I do it anyway out of enjoyment, but I listen to music that's not in my exact genre,
Mm.
and I try to not stay up on pop culture, but I love movies and stuff like that, and I want to incorporate all aspects of like all parts of my life into my music. So like I stay doing stuff. So like if it's skateboarding or watching a movie or listening to whoever, I just keep doing that. I try to keep it involved. So like when I do write and I do have those things that I can make a comparison. Because like in still growing up, I talk about like the first verse. I'm talking about a bunch of TV shows that I grew up watching. So and they were shows that I was binging at the time. So I was like, well, I want to incorporate that in my music so people know that I love Scrubs. So like I had to find a way to incorporate it. So yeah.
Ah, I remember Scrubs. That
I will argue it. Scrubs to me is the best TV show of all times. Nobody will touch Scrubs.
Do you have a time or times of day that you feel more creative?
Definitely at night. I think I write a
Huh.
lot more at night.
Now, does that still apply when you've stayed up for 2 days in a row, or is once
Yeah,
you've gone past that day one, you're talking about day two, you're not feeling as creative?
because mornings I'm so busy throughout the day. I'm so busy. I'm out running. I'm doing something. So
Uh,
night is when I have like an idle mind. Like I'm not doing anything. So thoughts are flowing more, and then I feel the need to like write it and stuff like that. So definitely at night.
have you ever experienced burnout from too much time spent on music?
Yeah. So anytime that it's like somebody's telling me like, hey, you have to have an album out, you have to get a single out, and usually that happens where I have taken too much time trying to perfect it. So then I'm like rushing, like, okay, we gotta hurry up and finish it. What else does it need? And then I'm on other people's time. So like if I gotta find a drummer or something like that, then I gotta, be on his time and I'm rushing. So by the end of that, then I'm tired. So like my last song again, that's the biggest promotion and work I've done. Well, the last few singles, that's the most work I've done single like promotion wise. So once they're out and they're posted, after like 2 weeks of them being out, I am tired. Like again, I am so tired of hearing it. I'm tired of talking about it, and I'm drained. But like it's just one of the things you got to keep going.
What do you do for recovery? Is that sort of moments where you take that time off and you go, you watch a movie, you hang out, you exercise?
Yeah. We went axe throwing the other day. I just find something that I wouldn't normally do. Um, we went skateboarding in a parking lot yesterday, day before yesterday. Just, just
Something.
something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you experience songwriting? Do you experience it as a download, like it's coming from somewhere? Do you experience it as like an upwelling, like you feel like it's coming up? How do you experience getting ideas?
I would say like it's just coming up because I know like my deepest songs, like the songs that I'm really venting, I was either just like in a really hurt place or whatever
Mm.
the feeling was. And I just like, I got to get this out. I got to find some way to translate it, this feeling into words or into something. I don't know, like, I don't want to say physical, but something that's like out there and I can show and like look at it or listen to it. And
And
it's
you
just,
already spoke about
find it out.
having, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
You spoke about that the lyrics, the words always come first for you. And then
Mhm.
after that, you then go into the studio and then you sort of piece things together to create the final song. Can you do you prefer to listen? Excuse me. Do you prefer to write music after listening to someone else's music, or do you like to have a clean slate, like you haven't listened to music for a couple hours or days?
It could be both. I've listened to a song and then been so inspired that I felt like I could have done a remix or something like that, and then I'll write something out because I have a song Bougie, and I wrote it originally as a remix to a Doja Cat song. But then I was like, who am I? Nobody want to hear my remix, and then I just like made a song for it. So like, but then it's sometimes where it's just like I'm going through something I need to write, so It's just whenever, like anytime pretty much.
Has performance anxiety ever threatened to impact or impacted your performance?
Oh, all the time. I have to perform a certain way or I will freak out on stage.
Oh,
Not like just freak out where I can't do it.
can you share with us what what that specific way is?
So like usually I have a band. So like in
Yeah.
my band we have like a cello player, we have all these people. So I'll have them like in front of me and I'll be in the stool kind of sort of in the back where I can still be seen, but I have, somebody covering me.
Huh.
Yeah, so like I'm seen because it's like if not that you're coming for me, but if you're like there and you want to see who's singing, I can still be seen, but I still have something that I can look at as like they're masking me from
Yeah.
people.
A protective barrier.
Yeah, I'm a back behind the scenes person. I'm backstage. I'm not a front and center man at all.
Well, that's interesting. So, have you ever tried being front and center?
Yeah, I tried it and it was fun, but it was like it took so much energy out of me because I
Yeah.
got into this thing where I was like I want to do like these I don't know, just like off the wall shows where we was just like I'm not a glitter person, but I had somebody that was just like really into glitter. So I was like, we're gonna shoot glitter all over the place. And I don't know, just like random ideas we had where I would have to be like walking around and talking to people and stuff. And I do 9 times out of 10 if I'm performing, I'm doing stand up and I'm performing songs. So if I'm doing stand up, then I gotta like do crowd work. So like my crowd work is like I'll actually walk into the crowd. So then I have to
Okay, I'm
like
sorry.
just
Can I
kind of
can I
muster
pause
it
you there,
up.
Siobhan? So, to be clear, when you're doing stand up, you are front and center because part of doing stand up is being front and center. It's just you on the stage.
Yeah, I when I'm doing stand up, I'm a character. I'm just out there,
Oh,
reading lines. So I can do that. But
well, why don't
music
you
is
be a
completely
character
different
when you're rapping?
because it's a lot more personal. When you're telling jokes, then it's like you're
Ah,
making people laugh and you're in control of that. But like if
ah,
you're singing about like a breakup or depression, then it's like sensitive topics. So it's
huh.
kind of embarrassing for me. So I kind of want to like, have my hat low and just be like, yep, so this is what I've been going through lately. Then I
Well,
can,
Siobhan.
throw it away.
Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting. I look forward to seeing how your artistic style either stays the same or evolves over time. Um, Servan, those are all my questions. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we call it a day?
No, that was good. That was good.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find CerVon Campbell on Facebook, at CerVon Campbell Music, Twitter at Hey, I'm CerVon, and I can honestly tell you that his Twitter feed has already made me laugh in the past 24 hours. So I definitely recommend checking that out. This has been the show. Thanks so much for watching, folks. See you next time.